Trapped on a mysterious planet, R2-D2, C-3PO, 4BX, and a young rebel named Stuart Zissou must summon all their courage and knowledge in order to survive. Strange creatures, weird weather, and killer twisters stand in their way. There's only one chance at rescue. Will the rebels make it in time?
Hello, younglings, and welcome back to the Padawan Library. That's right, we're back in the Padawan Library, not Aunt March's library. We're not going back there. If you didn't like that episode, fine. You'll never have to go back there again.
I don't think we didn't hear any, complaints, did we?
No, we did get that one comment. Great vid, bro. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's positive. That's very positive.
That's
From
great.
Tim.
Yeah,
a fellow Tim.
A fellow Tim. Speaking of
Yep.
Tim, we'll talk about another Tim in a minute.
Yeah, speaking of Tim, that's Tim May speaking. I'm Levi Paratic. This is, of course, the Star Wars Junior Novel Podcast, not the Little Women Novel Podcast. So April Fool's, folks.
Classic April Fool's prank on our part.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, guess what I bought?
What?
Rise of Skywalker on Blu-ray.
Oh, you got it.
Not April Fool's.
Oh, yeah, why would you? It's a waste of time. I may get it, years from now when I can get it for nothing. Maybe just, you know what I mean? In a couple of years when I can pick it up for, $5, then maybe I'll get it. But, I don't see myself getting it anytime soon. I'm just not going to rewatch that movie. It is what it is. Sorry. I will eventually, I'm sure, but...
I was at a Target today, and I saw the display, and part of me was like, ooh, this Target exclusive, maybe, but there was no price, and it was like, it's not happening. Yeah. I don't care enough.
No. I have the other two, that's fine, I'm fine. I bought those day of, or actually the night before, because there was a store in Erie that put them out a night before.
You won't mention that store's name, so they don't get in trouble, so...
I don't care. I care enough... I know someone who works there, so I guess I should care. Anyway, but they wouldn't get in trouble. I don't think anybody from Disney's listening to our show. I'll say that. I think it's very unlikely. But anyway, so the book we're talking about today is the second and final Star Wars Science Adventures book, Journey Across Planet X. We'll get to that in a minute. There's not really any Star Wars news, obviously. The Clone Wars keeps coming out, and I'm not caught up. I see they're into Ahsoka episodes now, so I do need to catch up. The Clone episodes, I have trouble with sometimes.
I see there's a character who's got a big woolly jacket. Kind of reminds me of Jabba the Hutt before he was digitalized.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the deleted scene.
Mike Caine.
OG Jabba.
Yeah, Marvel Comics adaptation Jabba. As I like to call him. I think he looks like that. I think because they based it on the scene. I'm pretty sure. He might actually look different. I need to look back. I have a giant, oversized thing of the first half of the adaptation. That's pretty fucking cool. The Marvel Star Wars comics, man, they're really good.
Well, we may get into those when this is all said and done.
It's possible if we still feel like doing a podcast at the end of all of this. At the end of Padawan Library.
Comic Shop, we'll call it.
Yeah, it could get there. It could get to that point. So, we'll talk about it later. But I don't really have any Star Wars stuff to talk about, but I've been watching the Trancers films.
I've never seen those. I've seen the cover of them before. So.
If people don't know, Trancers is a film franchise, a time travel science fiction action franchise that was most of its run was part of Full Moon Pictures, classic straight to video label studio, really. In the 1990s, the first one was its precursor, Empire Pictures, which was actually had some theatrical releases. You know all about this. You directed a movie that's kind of related to this.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And I've watched all the Puppet Master movies, which I don't recommend.
Yeah, those, not, whatever. And some Full Moon stuff is just pure junk, and anything they made after, like, 96, really, is bad. And not worth anything.
What's your cutoff, then?
When the Paramount years, when Paramount was subsidizing them, because Paramount Pictures like subsidized them as essentially a genre direct-to-video division for the first half of the 90s. I don't know the exact dates, and they actually made like some pretty fun, like very junky but fun genre movies. And then after that, they just tanked, and they've totally tanked. Like now they're like. Not now, but like a decade ago or so, they were probably most well known for like Evil Bong and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yes. But so
Tommy Chong's Evil Bong.
Yeah, I don't know how creatively involved he was in that. And
he wasn't in the second movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Exactly.
And who could forget Gary Busey in Ginger Dye Bread Man?
Ginger Dead Man.
Oh, Ginger Dead Man. Yes.
Yeah. What'd you call it?
Ginger Dye Bread Man.
What the hell? Anyway, so yeah, Full Moon. But yeah, the first movie came out in 1985 and is the first Trancers. And so it was an Empire Pictures release, and it was a theatrical release. It's directed by Charles Band, who's the guy who is in charge of Full Moon, created it. And it stars Tim Thomerson, who as Jack Death, time-traveling cop. And Jack Death, D-E-T-H, right? And his love interest in the movie is a young Helen Hunt.
Oh,
and
wow.
she's not just in the first movie, she's also in the second movie, which came out in 1991, 6 years later. And she has a cameo in the third movie, which came out in like 93. Wild stuff. She wasn't a huge star, obviously, until a couple years after that. Mad About You and As Good as It Gets connecting together. But still, she was in like Hollywood movies and stuff, like in between those Trancers movies. Like she's in like Girls Just Want to Have Fun and Project X with Matthew Broderick, like all those movies. So like not like huge movies, but like she had like a legitimate quote unquote career, and the fact that she came back is fun. Anyway, Trancers. I just watched the first one this afternoon, and it was a delight. Actually, really fun. Definitely, like, worth checking out. They're all on Tubi, the free streaming service.
Oh, wow.
Free with ads,
wow.
So, worth checking out. And an interesting thing I also watched was...
There's also, I hear there's a documentary about VHS collecting on there as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I've heard that's on
Might
there.
Might be called Adjust Your Tracking.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's co-directed by one of our co-hosts here.
Watch it, and I'll make some money off of, since this podcast is costing me money.
Oh yeah,
so.
Well, actually, we got to talk about that. I need $10 from you soon.
Right. You'll get it.
Anyway, so yeah. Regardless, the Trancers movies are all in there. And an interesting addendum to the Trancers movies is in the late '80s, '88, Charles Band was making an anthology movie. Called Pulse Pounders, and it included a sequel to a movie they made called Dungeon Master, and like it's 3 shorts, and one of the shorts was a sequel to Dungeon Master, the other one was a sequel to Trancers, and then there was just an original like H.P. Lovecraft adaptation. But the sequel to this movie never got released because Empire Pictures collapsed, and then basically they just started over with Full Moon. But, like, in 2011, I guess they found a print of it, and so they've released, like, so they released the Trancers sequel, which is a 25-minute Trancers sequel that has Tim Thomerson and Helen Hunt, so that's available not on Tubi, though. That's on Amazon, not Prime, but the rental is free. Get that. You can rent it for free. I thought that was very funny.
That is so bizarre.
So I watched that too. So we're gonna watch Trancers 2 tomorrow. And
how many are there?
6 features.
Okay.
There's basically the first one was made 6 years before any of them, and then 91 and 92 is 2 and 3, and those seem like they're more serious sequels. Than 4 and 5 were made in 94 and 95. Those are directed by David Nutter, who directed a lot of X-Files episodes and more famously Game of Thrones episodes. But then those are like, he goes back to like medieval times or something, and those don't have any of the other characters. And then there was a 6th one in 2002 that doesn't have Tim Thomerson at all, except I guess in stock footage, and that's like something else. I've heard that's quite bad. But anyway, the big thing about this is that the premise is really fun. It's a time travel story where the way you travel through time is you go down the line, and you essentially like inhabit the body of some like of an ancestor of yours. So it's and like it's super fun. The first movie is like kind of a Terminator ripoff, but it's not like but it doesn't take the no robots, like it has its own thing. And the Trancers are like these like are kind of zombie like people in the thrall of like the villains and stuff. But yeah, a delightful time. I'm having a great time with that. I'm alternating between that and Akira Kurosawa movies. It's a great balance.
That's the perfect time, because the Kurosawa movies are all like 10 out of 10 movies. So like that's the time to get some things that maybe aren't 10 out of 10.
I watched The Most Beautiful, which was like his propaganda movie about a factory with the like women working and making bombs and stuff. During World War II. That's not very good. That's imperialist swill. But still like some beautiful moments just because he's a great observer of human behavior. But the movie is bad. But I also watched The Men Who Tread on the Tiger's Tail. Have you seen that?
No.
That's only an hour long. And it's like
that's the perfect length.
Perfect movie. I was so so happy. Next up, I gotta watch Senshiro Sagato Part 2, which is the sequel to his first movie. And then we're finally in post-war, so like when he's a little less restricted, and so I'm pretty excited about that. But and then eventually into the Mifune era and everything. So very exciting. I mean, I've seen a lot of those movies, but there's a few little ones I haven't seen, like I Live in Fear, or
I think I've seen that one.
That's one where where Mifune plays like super old guy. And like he's scared about nuclear annihilation, and he wants to move his family to Brazil or something. I think that's the plot.
Maybe I haven't seen that one, but that title is
the plot sounds interesting. So yeah, and it's that's like from the mid-50s. That's I think right after Seven Samurai. But yeah, so I'm excited. There's some. I mean, I've seen a lot of the big classics, but even the like big movies I haven't seen in like over a decade. So I'm really I'm just enjoying that.
So you're paying for Criterion Channel now, I assume, right?
Yeah, Criterion Channel is incredible, and it's an incredible deal. You're paying $11 a month, and you're getting so many good movies. It's ridiculous, honestly. Like, I can't even, like, if you love, like, and it's not just, like, there's just so many, and they have tons of rotating cool stuff that's not, like, typical Criterion fare, too. It's awesome. So, yeah. It's worth paying for. I canceled Sling because the NBA season is on hold for indefinitely. So, and that's the only thing I use that for, and that's like 3 times as expensive as the Criterion Channel. So it's like, it's an incredible deal. So what can I say?
Yep. Well, I'm not up to much. I'm back in Texas. Leaving Texas for South Dakota soon. Keeping my head down, avoiding the virus, and just watching Sopranos. So that's all I'm up to.
Good job.
I'm in season 5, halfway through season 5.
Okay,
so
nice.
Cousin Tony's around.
You liking Tony B?
Yeah, Tony B.
Steve Buscemi.
Tony B. Yeah, legend.
Yeah, so
he's great. Yep.
And the Matt Weiner, creator of Mad Men, started writing for the show that year.
Yeah, I saw. He just an episode he directed. I can't remember what happened. I think that's the episode where Tony finds out that Tony B killed one of Johnny's guys,
oh my God.
He's pissed about it.
That show is so good. I need to rewatch it. God, I rewatched
You just watched it recently.
No, I rewatched season 1 about a year ago when this book called The Sopranos Sessions by Alan Sepinwall and Matt Zoller came out, which is great. But I haven't even finished that book because essentially most of the book is full deep reviews of each episode. They go deep, and I wanted to watch it as I read it, but I just got distracted at some point after season 1. I've seen the show obviously, and there's the second half of the book is a full interview with David Chase. It's a 130-page interview with David Chase. It's so cool. And he's just, oh my God, David Chase is a genius. I'm looking forward to Many Saints of Newark.
I am too. So
yeah, we'll see what happens.
That's one of those.
That's the Sopranos movie that's coming out in the fall, or
maybe it's coming out in the fall. We will see.
Well, it's done shooting, so it'll at least be finished this year. Whether it's
I saw this. This is baffling to me. Not to curb the subject from Sopranos, but I see that Gaga's new album was supposed to come out in April, and it's delayed until December now.
Well, probably because somewhat like Lady Gaga, her albums are usually tied to big tours, so she probably can't announce a tour for a while, and maybe just wants the timing to be better. I think that's probably all that is, frankly. I'm sure the record's done, but yeah.
I'm sure it is too. Yeah. So we have.
I'm curious what I haven't listened to the single. I'm curious where she goes post Star Is Born, because that feels like a change in her career.
The first time to me, I listened to the single. It's called "Stupid Love," and I did not like it because it's okay, she's just doing the same old poppy crap that she's done before. But the more and more I listen to this song, it seems to me it's her saying I am a superstar, love me, kind of thing.
Well, that's what you do.
It's this really this really gray capitalism thing that I think she might be going for. So I'm interested to see the rest of the album because of that.
I have mixed feelings about Gaga. I love some of her stuff, and then other songs which a lot of people do love, I just find obnoxious. I have trouble she has there's deep cuts I really like, and I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but Star Is Born was the event of my life.
Oh, a masterpiece!
Was the absolute event of my life, honestly.
I think what's so incredible about her though is she's a lot she always has singles that always take off. There's always at least
one song.
From each
although the last record wasn't. What was the big single off the record before Star Is Born?
Oh,
because Joanne,
Million Reasons.
That's a good song. Yeah, there was one of the creatures on Masked Singer just did that a couple weeks ago, and Nicole Scherzinger basically said they sung it better than Gaga, and I was I wanted to throw up, frankly.
No shots at that show, but I watched one episode.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Most anxiety possible. I was just unmask the damn singer.
That show is absurd. I'm glad they. Yeah.
And the fact that they go to the judges 4 times. Who do you think it is? And every single time they think it's the same person they thought from at the beginning. Their opinions never change.
The judges are mostly worthless on that show. I've come to obsess over Robin Thicke on that show though, because he is he's just whenever they cut away to him during a performance, he's just nodding his head, or he's looking down man, this is so deep, or I don't know, he is so funny. I laugh every time he's on screen.
I've come to not like Ken Jeong.
Well,
Like, I don't know,
he's funny on that show. I disagree. I also like Ken Jeong. I know it's very popular to dislike him these days, and I don't find him. He needs to be in a specific context for me to find him funny, but he's like, I think he's fairly amusing on that show. Maybe it's also because he's sitting next to Jenny McCarthy, so anybody's going to be funny. And
I came to dislike him on the Gong Show. Remember how I was obsessed with the Gong Show for a hot minute? A show that I wish had come back.
I know, but maybe Mike Myers just didn't want to do it or something.
Yeah, every act that I loved, he hated, and I was just like, how dare you gong that act? So.
He's kind of funny on this show because he has a whole bit where he just guesses the most ridiculous possible. It's kind of funny, and anytime Joel McHale's on as a guest judge, it's really funny because McHale just roasts him the whole time. It's so funny.
He's actually a really funny guest judge because Mel and I were watching RuPaul's Drag Race, and he showed up as a guest judge, and the one judge on there, Miss Sel Versage, Joel made her so pissed. He would be laughing at really inappropriate times, and you could tell she was fuming the entire time.
There's the other thing about Masked Singer. The other thing about Masked Singer is that just the judges are frustrating because then if they do guess it right, you're pissed too because you don't want because they have another final round of guessing right before it's revealed, and so if 3 of the 4 of them guessed it right, it's just but the guest judges are the best part because sometimes there was one episode where they had Triumph the Insult Comic Dog as a guest judge. So funny. He made so many funny jokes. I feel like they're just never going to have him back again because he just crushed so many people. And I remember he said something he's just that it was I can't remember, it was an animal, one of the creatures he was scared of or something. He's just I'm as scared of you as Robin Thicke is of any woman born before the year 2000 or something. And it was the funniest thing. So good. I love Triumph. Anyway, we had to fill... Listen, we just had to fill time because of this. I gotta tell you guys, I'm sorry if the episode's short this week. It's gonna be short. There's nothing to talk about. I read this about 6 hours ago or something, and... nothing to talk about.
You sent me a screenshot from the book, and it was the truest screenshot ever. And I'm just going to read it now.
Well, actually, you know what? Wait, and you'll hear what I sent Levi 6 hours ago after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Padawan Library. I'm Tim May, here, as always, with Levi Paratic.
Hello.
And listen, this is very important. About 6 hours ago, I was reading Journey Across Planet X, Science Adventures number 2 by Jude Watson and Katie Burkett, which is our book this week. And I sent you an image. I took a picture of a page in the book, and you wanted to read it.
Okay, this is the excerpt. I don't know what page this is on. Okay, that explains how we get one season, but how do we get others? Stewart asked. How about another diagram? 4BX asked. And then Tim said, please, no! The perfect summation of this book, because this book goes into one diagram after another, explaining some weird, one other it's this book is all biology, whereas the last book was all physics, and this book just goes into one unrelated thing after another.
If you if you didn't listen until a couple weeks ago, you should go back and listen to that episode that we did on Emergency and Escape Pod 4, but... basically, if you don't want to do that, Science Adventures are these edutainment books, basically, that are mostly about teaching basic, grade school science lessons through a Star Wars story starring C-3PO, R2-D2, another droid, a science droid named 4BX, and a dipshit young rebel named Stuart Zissou. And,
that small boy, Stuart.
Yeah. And, listen, last time we left off, they had finally landed on this planet that they think is where they're going to find Stuart's father. Is that right? And
no, there's rebels on the planet, and they have to find the.
They have to get to a domed city. and they've landed
48 hours.
In 48 hours. And you know what? We can skip all the way to the end of the book after that. They go through a bunch of different obstacles. They wind up building a hot air balloon. They
make a boat.
They make a boat. There's
out of the hot air balloon.
Basically, all this stuff. They go through all of this. They're just traveling across the planet.
They keep getting attacked by birds.
They get attacked by lots of birds. They make friends with like a lizard, who I think is featured on the cover here.
Yeah, a winged lizard. And then and don't forget when they go through the tornado.
Oh yeah, yeah. And listen, when they go, I'm skipping all the way to the tornado. When they wind up going through the tornado, they wind up landing and crashing into a bunch of people's house, right?
Yes, it's like a straw roof
house. They
fuck
up the house, okay? And these people then get mad, and so C-3PO, protocol droid, can communicate with them because they're speaking a different language. What's the name of this thing? The Denor.
Oh. Okay.
I think Denor is the name of the actual planet. They think they're on the planet. Oh God, what is it? They think
I know there's a character named Granite.
Granite. He's the guy whose house got screwed up, and he's like the leader of a tribe or something. And so C-3PO is communicating with him. And he's explaining like it was an accident. They're going to help them rebuild the house if they have to, and all this stuff. And eventually, the guy's like, like I'm going to challenge you to a game of space poker. Now, this tribe of people is generally presented as like they don't really have much contact with the outside world, so why would they have to play a game called space poker?
That's what they do to keep past their time, I guess.
This book came out in 1999. Sabak exists. And or Sabak, sorry. And so there's space poker, and there's laser dice, and all this stuff. Essentially,
and the odds are really high because if they lose, they're going to dismantle the droids and sell Stuart into slavery.
Yes. And 3PO agrees to this without telling the rest of them because he's speaking in this other language. And Stuart is the one who volunteers to play because space poker's my game, is what he says.
Well, remember, he cleaned out Han Solo.
That's true, in the first book.
In the beginning of the first book, yep.
And so, basically, he loses, and then, what's the guy's name again? Granite? Granite is like, oh, you didn't tell... Granite basically then reveals that he's actually a rebel. Okay?
Yeah, he's been playing him the whole time.
And he's under orders from Princess Leia to essentially take them off-world and take them to a planet, another planet called...
Is it Rom? Rom, is that the planet?
Yes, I believe. Taking them to...
That's where Stuart's father was kidnapped at, I believe.
Yeah.
So.
And so he was supposed to take him to the secret rebel base on Rom, which is an Imperial world, but there's a secret rebel base. And that's where they're supposed to take them, and they are like... And basically, so 4BX and Stuart and R2 and 3PO are basically like, we're not sure if we should trust this guy, if he is actually a rebel, but there's not much else we can do in the moment. Otherwise, we're going to get sold into slavery by these people or something, maybe. And so they leave. And that's the end of the book.
And that was the last book.
The end of the series.
Never made another one.
Listen, we're 6 minutes in. I promise you, we covered everything.
Yeah, we did. The only thing we didn't cover were the experiments in the back, which none of them involve an action figure like the last book, so why even bother?
And listen, I want to apologize. I didn't do it. You did. I feel bad.
Dude, you saw how I did it, though.
Yeah.
1 take, 1 minute, we're done.
Well, maybe I'll do it this week. I need to find a nice... I guess I can do it in my driveway. That'll probably be enough space. Anyway, so I'll have Brooke film it. So maybe you'll get another one of those great videos. Some of the experiments, there's one...
One's hot air. It's like hot air power.
Yeah, which you might have done in science class when you were a kid.
This
mouth lightning one sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You need,
crunch up some candy to create static electricity, then do some mini lightning of your own in your mouth. What you need is wintergreen candy, like Wind-O-Green Lifesavers. There should have been a trademark after that. A dark room or a closet, and a mirror.
So basically, if you're in a dark room, it'll shine in your mouth and you can look at it in a mirror. Great stuff. But, listen, I feel terrible for our listeners. They're getting a short episode. I'm not saying we're wrapping up. We can vamp for a while. But,
Well, I guess we could talk about, Jude and what we think Jude's involvement in these books is.
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
And I think her involvement is the last 2 chapters, because this book is just one science, lesson after another. So, I feel like the actual space poker scene she may have written. And then, I feel like she did 3PO. She wrote all the 3PO dialogue.
I don't think... my guess is that Katie Burkett had nothing to do with the stories or characters at all. And that essentially... the reason 4BX is terrible is because she's created as a device to deliver the lessons. And that's all she does. There's a funny bit, I remember when 3PO was super annoyed and was trying to shut her up. That's the thing. The first book wasn't good. I think I gave it 3 out of 10 or something. But the first book did have some fun 3PO moments. This book was just a drag. It was a bunch of third grade science worksheets. Oh, we should talk. There's a bunch of thank yous to a bunch of professors at the beginning. I'm going to read the whole thing. Special thanks to Charles Doswell of the National Severe Storms Laboratory, Frank Hepner of the University of Rhode Island, Raul Lopez of the National Severe Storms Laboratory, John Rogie of Pennsylvania State University, David, PA, baby. Actually, maybe give me a minute. We'll add one more segment to this. David Rothstein of the University of Michigan, Mark Seaman of Bates College. Frank Summers of the American Museum of Natural History. Thanks also to Super Science Magazine for help with the Star Wars science activities. I'm sorry. Anyway, so I made a list. We're both from Pennsylvania. I made a list of the best Pennsylvania movies of all time on Letterboxd. Let me see if I can pull it up. This is ridiculous. But we need content. What can I say?
We're at, how far are we? We're still under 13 minutes.
Yeah, listen, that's why we're doing this. Sorry, guys. Pennsylvania movies. This is what I wrote. I'm just going to read what I wrote and everything.
All right.
Which explains a lot of it. Number 10, Unstoppable, 2010. We'll talk about this in a minute. Number 9, Groundhog Day.
Okay, good one.
Number 8, Adventureland. This is not necessarily in terms of order of quality. I'll explain all of this. Number 7, Witness. Number 6, That Thing You Do. R.I.P. Adam Schlesinger, one of my kings. Fountains of Wayne, one of my favorite bands of all time. Super sad. Number 5, The Deer Hunter. Number 4, Rocky. Mm-hmm. Number 3, The Village. This is, again, not necessarily a quality or importance thing. We'll talk about it in a minute. Mm-hmm. Number 2, Something Wild. And number 1, Dawn of the Dead. All right. So, the original, of course. God. The fact that I have to specify that, some people. These Snyder Dawn... These fans of the Snyder Dawn of the Dead make me want to throw up. Anyway, so this is basically what I said. I said, I love my home state, and not that many movies are set here, unfortunately. I tried to represent several different parts of the state, but it's naturally weighted towards Western PA, since that is where I live. Dawn of the Dead is a stand-in for all Romero movies, practically. Most of his movies are set in Pennsylvania. He is the god of Pennsylvania filmmaking. He is the true king. Mm-hmm. Listen, we both grew up in Western Pennsylvania, wanted to be filmmakers. He's a literal god. I agree. So anyway, Shyamalan is the only one who can even remotely challenge Romero for that title, and he's from Eastern PA. This is what I said. The Village is one of the great movies for conveying Pennsylvania's foresty landscape. It, like, you see it, you know it's Pennsylvania immediately. Mm-hmm. It's so. Anyway, Rocky is a stand-in for all Rocky and Creed movies. Like, yeah, but Rocky is the most Philadelphia of all of them.
I agree.
I feel like.
Yep.
Or maybe Creed is also, but anyway, I say Groundhog Day, great movie, but it is not as good a Pennsylvania movie as the ones above it. This is my issue as a Pennsylvania movie. The townies' behavior in Groundhog Day is much more Midwestern, classically Midwestern, than it is Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
There is a difference in the behavioral tropes. So anyway, and then I also, some of these movies also take place in other states, okay? The midsection of Something Wild, which is my number 2 movie, all right? Which is set at Melanie Griffith's high school reunion with Ray Liotta and all that, is the most rural Pennsylvania shit of all time. They're at like a VFW hall, and like just the behavior is so spot on. And so I say we get that one. New York has enough movies, is what I say to that. Although it's also a great New York movie, but whatever. And then there's Unstoppable, and you might be thinking, Unstoppable, that's that Denzel movie with Chris Pine, Runaway Train. Yes, that's what I'm talking about, the Runaway Train movie. It's directed by the late, great Tony Scott, R.I.P.
R.I.P. It's his, legend.
Yeah, such a legend. It's his final movie. But that movie is really fun. Interesting thing about that movie, all the towns in it takes place in like central PA. All the towns in it are fake. And the real life incident it was based on actually happened in Ohio. But it still somehow feels like Pennsylvania. It feels real. They did a good job with that, I actually think. So, and then just a couple of quick things. I used to live in this town called Avonmore, Pennsylvania, which is very small, and it was kind of decimated over the last several decades. Well before I lived there. I lived there when I was a little kid, and when I first moved there in 1997, there were 1,200 people, right? And when we left, there were 800 people. That's 4 years. In 2001. 97 to 01.
That's 100 people a year.
Yeah, like, well, my dad was a Lutheran pastor there, and he did a lot of funerals, I think, is actually what it was, so.
He must have been very busy,
yeah, it was not a great situation. Then we moved to Erie, Pennsylvania, and by the way, the reason I bring that up is because there was a movie shot in Avonmore years after I left, directed by Gus Van Sant, starring Matt Damon and John Krasinski, called Promised Land. It's not a great movie, but it's absolutely insane that Matt Damon has, like, stepped foot in Avonmore, Pennsylvania. Honestly. It's, like, one of the craziest things, that him and Jim from The Office we're, like, hanging out in Avonmore, Pennsylvania bars is wild to me. That's the kind of town where, like, kids could go into a bar, by the way. Like, and just hang out with their parents in the bar. They won't give them alcohol, but, like, so, like, it's that kind of town, very small, nothing going on. Anyway, I moved to Erie, Pennsylvania in 2001. I've lived there ever since, most of my life. And the iconic Erie movie wasn't shot here, but it is iconic. It's That Thing You Do, which a lot of people are watching lately because, unfortunately, Adam Schlesinger from Fountains of Wayne, which I mentioned earlier, died of the virus. He wrote the song That Thing You Do. That's super sad. But that movie's super fun. And the band's from Erie, Pennsylvania. They play at Mercyhurst College. They go to the Boston. They talk about the Boston store, like true Erie stuff. And it produced the immortal line, "You got to be quick with me. I'm from Erie, PA." Just an iconic line for anyone who grew up in Erie, PA. So shouts to that movie.
You model your life on that line.
Absolutely, but. So yeah, that's basically it. But there's plenty of movies that have been shot here that also. You had a couple you wanted to bring up.
Another one that was shot in Erie. I've never actually seen this movie. I've heard it's okay, but The Road with Vigo.
Yeah,
that was shot there.
Substantial parts of it were shot at Presque Isle, which is the beach, and
we shot a movie there.
Yeah,
that'll come. That'll come.
Eventually, that'll be one of the great Pennsylvania movies.
That definitely needs to be in the commentary. Vigo stood where we stood.
I don't think it was. It might have been the same beach. I think they might have actually shot on Beach 11.
Okay,
so it might have been. I'm not sure though. So I don't want to say that for sure.
You were talking about how Unstoppable. There was the train incident that took place in Ohio. Another situation like that, also Jesse Eisenberg in Adventureland, which takes place in Pittsburgh at Kennywood. The movie 30 Minutes or Less, which was about the pizza bomber.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So that was very controversial in Erie, Pennsylvania. If you guys probably saw, there was a documentary on Netflix a year or two ago about this too, called what was it called?
I can't remember what it was called.
Anyway, if you remember, and it was a big national story at the time, too, but there was a guy who had a bomb strapped to his chest outside. He was delivering a pizza to an Eyeglass World, and it blew up. He blew himself up. The super fucked up situation.
They made it into a comedy with Jesse Eisenberg and Danny McBride.
And Aziz Ansari.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's that. I didn't see it. It was directed by the guy that made Zombieland, I think. That I didn't see it. It was very controversial in Erie. People were pissed that it was happening. It's not real. From what I gather, it's like they took the idea of a guy being forced by a terrorist to strap a bomb to his chest. That's a pizza delivery guy, and that's literally the only similarity. Also, Evil Genius is the name of the documentary, by the way.
That's it.
Yeah,
yep.
Which was one of the minor Netflix true crime things. I didn't watch it because I literally followed every step of that story. It is crazy. If you're not familiar with it, crazy shit happens. But I also am not. I'm also not a huge true crime person. I'm like, oh, so this turned into another crazy thing. I'm like, yeah, these are real people. You know what I mean? I don't know, that maybe it's just because I'm too close to it, because I read about it in the Erie Times News for 15 years, how it slowly, sadly developed over the course of a long time. But so it's less funny to me. But yeah, it's weird they made that movie, and they didn't shoot it here. I don't know where they shot it.
Right.
But, yeah.
But movie shot in Pittsburgh, takes place in Pittsburgh, a movie that I don't think is very good, but it's actually a very good representation of Pittsburgh, because some friends of ours here in Texas were like, oh, have you guys seen this movie before? And it was just so we watched it with them, and we were just this is very spot on Pittsburgh. Kevin Smith's Zack and Miri Make a Porno.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. Absolutely. Yeah, no, because I forgot to mention that because I think of him so much as a Jersey guy. But
yeah, the fact that it takes place in Pittsburgh is really interesting, and they shot it there. And, what I feel is, one of the most, true to Pittsburgh aspects of it is the fact that, it's snow, and, the coffee shop they work in, the floors are covered in salt, and they just look disgusting. Yeah, and we were just this is true. Yeah, this is what stores look like in the middle of winter. And,
yeah, that movie, I actually, speaking of Pittsburgh and Kevin Smith, actually, Dogma was shot in Pittsburgh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you can tell if you watch it. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I remember noticing that. I mean, it takes place in New Jersey, or most of it does. And then another movie that was shot in Pittsburgh is Inspector Gadget with Matthew Broderick, which I'm technically in. I want to point this out. You can't see me, don't look for me, but that movie, I didn't live in Pittsburgh, I lived in Avonmore at this time, but we were in Pittsburgh for the day, going to the Carnegie Art Museum, I think, and they were shooting some helicopter shots for the movie, and they had a sign basically that it's if you wind up wading into this crowd, you will be shot by the movie, and you'll be in it. You didn't have to sign anything, but because you wouldn't be able to make anybody's face out. But basically, it was just letting you know that. And so there is a helicopter shot around that building in the movie, and I probably am in that movie. So a delightful situation.
I love that movie as a kid. I don't know why.
I enjoyed it at the time. I haven't seen it since it came out. But yeah, it's wild. Lots of stuff shot in Pittsburgh. George Miller's Lorenzo's Oil with Nick Nolte and Susan Sarandon was shot in Pittsburgh. I haven't seen that. I'm actually going to probably watch that pretty soon. But
another actually, and then going back to Romero shot in Land of the Dead there, which I think...
Well, he shot some of that in Toronto, too. But
okay, but doesn't that take place around Steel Tower, which is also the home of Wayne Enterprises in Dark Knight Rises, because Dark Knight Rises was shot in Pittsburgh.
Of course, Pittsburgh's become a bit of a film hub, or it was for a bit. And here or there, they shoot stuff there, but yeah.
I love that all of the Nolan Batmans were shot in different cities.
Yeah, Vancouver, Chicago, Pittsburgh. Completely different.
Wayne Tower is different every movie.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I don't know. I just thought it'd be a fun thing to share since we had nothing to talk about with the book. But wait, one last thing. There was a movie shot in your hometown before you were born.
Oh, yes. A movie called Tiger Warsaw, which starred Patrick Swayze. So this movie, Patrick Swayze made immediately after Dirty Dancing, and he was making it before Dirty Dancing came out.
So he wasn't a massive star. He had been in Outsiders and Red Dawn, and yeah.
Right, he wasn't a massive star yet. I mean, it was big news in town when Patrick Swayze came into town. It's a very forgotten movie. That was basically this guy came into town, started a movie studio, made this movie, and made one other movie. Tank disappeared out of town.
Wow! He set up a studio in Sharon, Sharpsville, Hermitage?
In Sharon, at an old school. It was a decommissioned high school that they actually just tore down a couple years ago, but that's where the studio was. I should have showed that to you while it was still there.
That's fine.
But the movie Patrick Swayze basically stars as he comes home. It's his hometown, and the reason he left is because he had this huge fight with a family member, and basically he comes back to his hometown to make amends.
Oh, classic! That's a classic setup.
Classic coming of age kind of story. Yeah, not much else happens in the movie.
A dead man's 5 Easy Pieces, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I did find a VHS copy of it though that had behind the scenes footage on it, which was shot during the filming of the movie.
Oh wow!
And they had an interview with Patrick, and he goes, "Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the most important movies I ever made." That's one of the things he says about it. And it's one of his.
So Patrick Swayze was full of shit, basically.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He never came back to town. But yeah, that's Sharon, Pennsylvania, home of Tiger Warsaw.
So yeah, listen, there's listen, we didn't talk about Star Wars this week. By the way, what would you give?
I give it one midi-chlorian.
Yeah, we gave I gave the last one 3, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or so. Yeah, this is way worse than that.
I feel bad because it's Jude, but this book is not good. So
it's what it is. I'm sure she wouldn't be offended. I doubt she thinks of these books fondly. So anyway, there you go. 1 midi-chlorian from both of us. We didn't talk really at all about Star Wars this week. I apologize. We didn't talk about it at all last week. So listen, next week we are going to be back on track. We're going to start Boba Fett next week, right? Mm-hmm. So what's the first book called?
Big. Oh, The Fight for Survival.
All right,
And this book takes place during the events of Attack of the Clones, and then immediately follows the events of Attack of the Clones.
All right, I'm excited. So the next 3 weeks we're covering the first 3 of those. So get ready on that, and then you can go back and listen, find our schedule. But So sorry about the lack of Star Wars content these last 2 weeks, but. It is what it is. We can't talk about Science Adventures that long. We should have done it as 1 episode. Sorry about that.
But we got 2 out of it.
Yeah,
it's all right.
It's fine. It's fine. If people liked the Little Women episode, I think they could probably dig this one.
All right. Well, yes, follow us on all social medias. You know the drill. PadawanLibrary@gmail.com for questions, comments, concerns. Buy the t-shirt. Till the books are due back. Link may be in the episode, may not. If not, oh well.
I'll get it in there. I'm sorry.
Okay, don't worry about it. And until the books are due back,
the library is closed. Padawan Library is hosted and produced by Tim May and Levi Peretic. It is edited by Tim May. Our theme song is by the Astral Project. Our artwork is by Freddie Funbuns. Copyright 2020, Tim May and Levi Peretic, all rights reserved.